People of Reddit, what's a seemingly innocent question you've asked someone that you later realized had a very double meaning? I needed parts for the water sprinklers in my garden. I went to the local hardware store and was looking through the boxes on the shelves for the right size. I could find smaller versions of what I wanted, but not the ones that I needed. Two female staff members wandered over, and one asked me if I needed help. Without thinking, I just asked, "Have you got big nipples?" She was totally lost for words, and her colleague couldn't stop laughing. Rather embarrassingly, I just held up the small ones and said, "Like these, but bigger." I'm really not sure that improved things. I walked into a second-hand bookstore while on holiday at the beach. All I could see were children's books. Without thinking, I asked the elderly female shop assistant if she had any adult books. The look on her face immediately made me realize that what I had asked had been taken completely the wrong way. First time I saw an adult bookstore, I thought to myself, that must be where they sell the academic textbooks. Boy, was I wrong. One of my colleagues was showing our executive assistant how to use the new espresso machine in the break room. He was explaining how to froth the milk with the steamer when she asked, "Do you just stick it in, or do you move it up and down?" Just as the production manager walked in. His double take was hilarious. The whole room cracked up. I was telling a friend of mine that I'd tried this new snack called Peetos, basically Cheetos made from peas or some sort of plant material. She asked me if I could taste the pea-ness. I told her to ask the question again. And then again. She heard it the third time. A decade ago, I was traveling to the USA with my folks. At the TSA line, it says to take your shoes off. And in front of the security guy, my mom asked my dad, "Oh, do I have to take my thongs off?" Dad went bright red and said, "Flip-flops, Catherine. You gotta call them flip-flops here." I had a turbinectomy, nose operation, which required full anesthesia. The nurses were super kind, and I wanted to express that gratitude before the slumber kicked in. So I told them, "In case I don't see you later, thank you for everything." I sounded like I was saying goodbye to the world, not just to the girls in there. My mom's a lawyer in LA. When she was pregnant with me, she went to a prenatal checkup and, panicking, told the doctor, "I had Coke. Is the baby going to be okay?" She said that he stared at her, not responding for quite a while, until she prompted, "You said no caffeine, but I forgot and drank a Coke with lunch. Did it hurt the baby?" And he immediately was like, "Oh, no. I mean, if you had 3 coffees a day, then cut it down to 1, but your baby's fine." Only later did it click for her that due to the prevalence of use in her location and among others in her profession, he thought she meant cocaine. My daughter is a type 1 diabetic. When her blood sugar levels get too high, she becomes almost slap happy. When she gets like this, my wife or I will usually ask her, "How high are you right now?" It's not uncommon for us to get some very incredulous looks when we ask her that in public. On a university camping trip, it had rained earlier in the day, and there was a bench with a woman sitting on it. I wanted to know if the bench was dry, and so asked the woman if she was wet. This one's about my mother at my sister's graduation. My mom was about 4'11". She used a tri-wheel walking aid because of her age and disability. We were going through some very grand doors when my mother stopped, looked at the 7-foot-tall man behind her, and asked if he wanted to give her a few inches. Everyone erupted, except the tall fella, who went red. My mother, realizing the connotations of her question, was laughing so hard she couldn't walk, and effectively blocked the doorway so no one could exit the hall. I hit it off with a waitress and was going to invite her to hang out with my friend group that night. I asked her, "What time are you getting off?" And she said, "I don't know. What time are you coming over?" I once saw a lassie outside my house looking at her bike tire. So I went to the door and called out, "Do you need a pump?" "Yeah, I'm Scottish, so that can also be interpreted as, would you like to have sex with me?" There was a beat of silence before she said, "Oh, I went over to Wee Stone and was just checking that it hadn't caused a puncture, but thank you." I'm an unsatisfied customer, and I'm wondering if you can make me satisfied. I said this years ago to a male Bell employee, in person. I had a question about my phone. I am a woman. When I was a high school teacher, I used to play a game in my classroom where students who got a question right could throw a crumpled up paper ball into the trash bin. One time, I decided to mix it up and let them pick where they put the bin. Unfortunately, I phrased the question as, where do you want to do it, on the floor or on the table? Of course, the entire class lost its collective mind. Many years ago, I was helping my toddler pick out a movie at Blockbuster. She asked if I'd watch the movie with her, and I said, yes, but I'm going to pick an adult movie too. The lady next to us started snickering, which made me realize what I'd said. Oh, I've got a good one. Brand spanking new to an office job, still a little wet behind the ears. Also, in a small community that I was new to. I'd been a waitress for years before, so I was still customer service chatty. I'd been there for a few months, and one of the guys would talk about what he and Pam did on his weekends. I always noted what people said so that I would have follow-up chatty questions to start conversations later. So one day, this guy's wife comes to get him for lunch. Everyone was gathering around chatting. I walk up and I say, "Hi, you must be Pam. I've heard so much about you." I have never heard a place go this silent. It was so uncomfortable, so I scurried back to my office. About an hour later, I learned that Pam was his affair partner, who his wife had been told the affair was over with more than a year ago. I mean, that's completely on him for talking up and down about his affair so brazenly. I work in healthcare. I used to bake pretty often for my colleagues, including gluten-free batches for my celiac friend, who I would label for her simply as special. She knew this labeling, and I kept hers to one side until she was able to take what she wanted, before they were put out for general consumption. Although I should have, I didn't think to rethink this labeling system when I took the brownies into work. In surgery, the anesthetist was working on the patient's IV line and needed an additional attachment. So they turned to the anesthetic technician and asked her, "Hey, can we have a three-way here?" When my English was still very bad, I'd ask people's height by asking how long they were, because long is the word we use for tall, although that doesn't exactly translate to English very well. I had someone once ask, "How many centimeters do you have?" I studied in Korea for a while and often heard, "Oh, you're very long." That's actually really funny considering that in Korean you say big, not long. Like you'd say their height is big if you wanted to say someone is tall. So those people must have thought big wouldn't work in English and tried to find a word they thought would work better, but ended up with the opposite result. That's actually kind of funny. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm ReddList. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.